What's going on YouTube? It's Ben Nader. You already know this is the channel where we talk about business, recruiting, entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, startups, everything in between. And so if you love that, definitely become a subscriber. I vlog every single day and hit the alert button so that you know when I come out with a new video. Today we're going to be talking about flow state. I think it's a super important topic. You might have heard about flow state theory or just flow state in general and how it works in business and entrepreneurship specifically, which is what I want to talk about because I think it's highly relevant to your success. So first things first, what is flow state? So generally, you can consider flow state as being in the zone. So if you've ever heard about, an athlete or a high performer or an artist or something of that nature, those people enter into what's called flow state. And this is basically a space where you practically lose yourself, your self-awareness, your self-knowledge, like just your own awareness of yourself in total. You're completely in the zone, you're completely focused on the task at hand, and you're simply just going after it, not aware of anything else outside of that, and you have no distractions. Obviously, this is super, super important because this can lead to massive productivity and massive success as a result. Oftentimes, this is focused with athletes specifically, but it applies to pretty much everybody, and especially people in business. Other things associated with flow states are like things that seem effortless. When you get into a flow state and you're just in the zone, what you're doing might just seem completely effortless. You're in the zone, it's just rinse and repeat, and you're just going after it. For instance, if you're cold emailing someone, right? It's a process that you just continually do. Outbound email, and you just copy paste, or you're just finding, candidates online and you're doing searches and you're just looking for keywords and you're in a flow state and nothing else is bothering you and you've honed in purely on your exact targets and your exact goals and you've entered into this zone, right? So you almost lose yourself, like I said before. And a lot of times this is what athletes and artists and other entrepreneurs have explained when they've entered into that game-winning shot or the end of the game where they really pushed hard. They've entered into this state of flow state where they almost don't even know that they're in it, but they're performing at their peak. And so it's super important for entrepreneurs to understand what this is and apply this to their business because ultimately it's going to garner a lot of success for you. So how do you get into flow state? I guess that's the most important thing. So intrinsically, we're kind of wired just to be all over the place, right? So in 2019, we have cell phones, computers, people are talking to us all day long. We're in digital communication pretty much 24/7, whether it be, your dating app, your text, your WhatsApp conversation, your Facebook messaging, your Facebook lurking, whatever that might look like for you. But avoiding that and getting out of that and how to get into flow state is what we want to talk about because that's where the success is and that's where the real money lies eventually. So let's talk about it. So you need to be focused on something that's intrinsically rewarding for you. So what I've studied up on is if you are a person that has found your motivation, right? Everyone's motivated by something different. Sometimes it's their why. It might be their children. It could be that car you want. It could be just the fact that you want to stack massive amounts of cash in the bank. That's usually mine. But whatever motivates you and drives you thoroughly, you need to find out that intrinsic motivation because that's the first step into entering a flow state. So knowing that intrinsic motivation, the next step beyond that would be to set clear and precise goals around that motivation. So let's say that you're looking to stack $1 million this year. Well, you need to understand exactly what it's going to take to do that. How much outreach, how many clients will need to be closed, how many candidates will need to be placed, how many deals needing to close, if you're in e-commerce per se, right? So those are the things that you need to focus on. Clear, precise, exact goals. And these need to be very scientifically precise. Otherwise, you're kind of going to be in a wishy-washy zone and not exactly a flow state zone, which is what we're going for. So once you've identified that motivation, the intrinsic motivation, and then clear and defined goals that surround that motivation, you basically create a vision for yourself, a vision of what you're going to do to make that happen. And so this involves your activity, right? So the things you need to do to actually obtain those goals. So this is sort of reverse engineering, like I've spoke about before, but a little bit different. So you're basically visualizing the things you'll need to do to actually obtain what you need to obtain. If your goal is to go to the gym and lose 50 pounds over the course of 5 months, okay, that's 10 pounds a month. You understand that you need to go to the gym most likely daily. You need to do a certain amount of cardio, lift a certain amount of weights, possibly work with a trainer. You need to define all of those clear goals and visualize that process before you can enter into a flow state and get to that actual goal and obtain it. So making that intrinsic identification of your motivation, creating clear and precise goals around it, and then visualizing the plan on exactly how you're going to approach it and what actions you're going to take to get to that actual goal. And then what happens after that is that you need to basically have an intense focus on that motivation that we talked about at the beginning. So the first step is that motivation. Now we go back to that, and you have to have an intense focus on that motivational piece in order for all of the other steps to fall into place. And this is how you get into flow state, right? So these are the steps that you would take. This is a generic version. I by no means am a neuroscientist, but this is what I've studied up on. These are things that I think are true and have worked for me specifically. So going back to that goal, going and identifying that and focusing in on it heavily, very strategically, and almost obsessively. So to the point where you know the only way to get to your goal is by focusing on that particular motivation and that particular goal that you want to get. Everything else in the middle will fall into line after that. So your flow state basically becomes after you do those steps right there. Now, what does this all mean? Like what does it mean? We're talking about entrepreneurship and business on this channel. And so what does this all mean for you, right? We're not talking about athletics. We're not talking about weight loss. We're not talking about, anything else other than business, entrepreneurship, creating something for yourself and making money. And that's the main focus of what we talk about here a lot. And so how this works for you is that flow state is just as applicable as it is to Usain Bolt, to you creating your recruiting agency or a Shopify store or any other sort of business that you're engaging in. And that means that the same principles apply. Whether it be, you being able to do a certain athletic feat, or whether you being able to close $1 million deal or $1 million worth of deals throughout the course of a year, whatever that goal may be for you. So flow state applies to everything across the board as it pertains to goals and ambitions. So as far as entrepreneurship and starting a business and whatnot, identify everything that you do. Basically take an audit of all your activity. Understand all of the certain things that you do throughout the day. What you do when you wake up. What you do 2 hours after you wake up. What you do during your midday. What happens in the afternoon. What happens towards your slump in the late afternoon. What do you do in the evening, and then what do you do at night. Identify all of this activity. Just take an audit of it. Take out a journal. Write down things, whether it's just on your iPhone, take an Apple Note, and just identify what am I doing throughout the day as your regular day. Not implementing anything, not doing anything, but just notating what are you doing throughout the day, what activities are you taking, and all of that. Now, the next step after that is to figure out which one of those are benefiting you. Which of those activities are actually bringing you closer to the money, like I always like to say. Bringing you benefit, making you happier, most likely bringing you closer and giving you better progress towards your actual goal. Identify those key activities, right? That's a super important piece of this. So figure out which one of those activities or which couple of those activities are the things that are going to bring you closer to your goal. Once you've identified that, you need to embrace and completely open yourself up to the possibility and the capability of you simply just doing those things and focusing solely on them rather than just doing a billion different things, right? Because I think part of this is we all get caught in doing way too much and spreading ourselves too thin, and that's a huge problem, especially when you're trying to enter into a flow state. So focusing in and honing in on those activities alone, making sure that 100% or 110% of your attention is going to those activities that are bringing you closer to your goals and closer to your progress to finish out what you want to actually accomplish is critical. So embracing that openness, embracing the ability to just, utilize those activities only instead of a bunch of other stuff that's been bogging you down, and embracing the capability that you have to just shove something off and say no. Eliminating distractions is probably the third one about entrepreneurship and business. So people say putting your phone on, airplane mode or whatever. I don't know. I use my phone a lot for business, so sometimes it's not an option. But there's ways around things, right? Setting certain times, not checking your phone every time an alert comes up, not opening up your email. Like I just got an email during this video, you might have heard it. Just eliminating distractions, eliminating time constraints. When people want to connect with you, or when people want to say, hey, let's go out for coffee, or hey, let's do this, or hey, I want to have a phone call, and the phone call is going to be meaningless, bail out on it. Just forget about it. You have to set boundaries in order to enter flow state and actually get things done. So set these boundaries, understand what you need to focus on, and be aware, hyper aware of what's meaningful for you, and that's what's going to bring you closer to your actual goal rather than just waste your time. So embracing all of that, being open to that stuff, and then I think really creating an environment for yourself that allows you to enter into flow state. So creating the environment of peace, quiet, whatever it might be for you. Sometimes maybe it's people blaring music and, not hearing anything else but the music, and the thoughts in your head are what flow state is for you. Sometimes a lot of this stuff is individualistic, right? But overall, just getting organized and getting an environment set up for yourself and doing what feels right is going to put you in your flow state. So once you've entered into this, once you've implemented all of these different steps and features and everything that I'll detail in the description of this video, as well as the links to my Facebook group, Six Figure Recruiters, and my Facebook page, The Six Figure Recruiter, you should join and follow both of them. But we'll have more information about flow state and articles on there as well. But this flow state, once you've obtained it and once you've mastered it, is going to take you miles and miles and miles. It's going to pay off dividends for you, because what it means is that you're going to be accomplishing goals at light speed. There's been studies done where they have put people into particular zones where they are entered into flow state. They've eliminated distractions. They've been put in a position where they're simply focusing on the task at hand. And then they've had a second group of people that are not focused. They are allowed to have distractions. They are not. They have not identified a clear, motivating goal, and they've given them a task, a simple task. I forget what the task was, but it was something very, very simple. Could be completed in maybe 10, 15 minutes. And I think the statistic was 95% of the people who were in flow state completed it in less than 3-4 minutes, whereas everybody else took beyond the limit of 10 or 15 minutes and up to 20 minutes or so. And if you just look at that math right there, understand how ridiculous and absurd that is. And for your time and for your investment, because starting business and getting into entrepreneurship, your time and your investment and the self that you're putting into this is really ultimately your currency, right? And we don't live forever. You only live once. You're putting all of this into what you're doing. And if you're not doing it properly, you're wasting your time. So I think it's really important for you to understand what flow state means, how to get into flow state, and how to use it to your best advantage as someone starting an entrepreneurial venture or otherwise. So that's a little bit about flow state, guys. I think there's tons more research you can do. I'll put some links in the description of this video. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do, smash the like button, please. If you're not a subscriber yet, subscribe. Today's Friday. I'll catch you guys tomorrow on Saturday. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that like button. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Take care.